Um, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to start the live stream. Thank you, Ariel, and I appreciate that. Um, yeah, we lived in a tiny house for like 3 years, and then we lived in an RV. And we traveled for most of that time, so that's why we lived in a tiny house. And so we got rid of everything that we owned, like everything. So now we just moved into this like huge house. It's like 4,000 square feet, this house. And so we have like no furniture, nothing. So I'm like slowly, like we bought a bed. This whole weekend, I was doing nothing but just like putting stuff together. It was horrible, actually. It was like horrible. I put a dresser together. I put like, wait, one, two, I put two dressers together. And let's see what else. I put so much stuff together, I can't remember anymore. And Pete's my husband. For everybody that doesn't know, Pete is gone. He's gone. He's gone all last week, and he's gone this week, and he's trying to like, work on some of our storage facilities and like get them, because we're going to be gone in New York for a couple of weeks to hang out with family for the holidays and stuff. And so it's just me, and I'm just sitting here like putting all this furniture together and taking care of Lillian. So if she comes in at any time, I apologize, but it's just me, so Pete can't watch her during this session. But yeah, I'm like tired. My back is hurting from like sitting on the ground and putting like dressers together. I was up like late every single night doing it. And I'm not understanding the whole concept of like sending you like a piece of furniture and having you put that together. Like, why can't you just get the whole thing together? I'm not understanding. So that's kind of my life right now, just buying furniture and putting it together. So we still don't even have like a dining room table or couch or anything like that. The only thing that we have to sit on is like my bed. So it's been very interesting. Okay, so everybody's introducing themselves. I see you guys are all introducing yourself. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you all coming and listening to me. I'm going to talk about something like super important today. Actually, I don't know, it's like super exciting to me. I'm going to talk about like and I've seen this with my students, is the difference between like primary, secondary, and tertiary markets. And I kind of just want to get into that today and talk about it and kind of talk about the markets and how everything is changing. Okay. And so like, because when I got into self-storage investing in 2016, prices were a lot cheaper, and prices were a lot cheaper, and everything, cap rates were different, so I'm trying to find like the perfect position with this light like right here, but it's just not working. So maybe a little bit darker there. But yeah, so the primary, secondary, and tertiary markets, we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about how the market has changed from like when I got into the business in 2016 until now. And kind of just, I'm going to show you today how you can tell the difference, because I've noticed when I talk to people that they really don't know the difference between those three markets and really kind of how to tell, So I figured we would just kind of spend the day on that today and just go over that. And in the meantime, if you have any other questions or anything, just pop them into the chat. And if I have time, I'll try to answer those. And again, if you have bought a storage facility or if you're if you're already a person that owns storage, then welcome. And if you have not owned any storage and you're looking to buy a storage facility, you are in the right place, because that's what I do, is I teach people how to buy storage facilities. And we have 11 of our own, and then we have 2 in our fund, the Self Storage Fund of America. And we're in the process of buying well, so it's so funny. It's so funny because I made an offer on a facility. Gosh, it's been like almost 2-3 months ago. I got it under contract for I made an offer for $1.9 million. And then, and that's actually the most expensive like storage facility that I've ever bought. So everybody, you guys all know that I'm like secondary and tertiary market. So I'm used to like just smaller facilities. So this is a $1.9 million facility. And then as we started to do due diligence and really kind of look at his numbers and things like this, then we started to we changed our offer to 1.7 million, and he said okay to that. So we put it under contract for $1.7 million. And now, like, after we've been there and we've had like 60 days to really kind of dig deep into like this facility and look at like economic occupancy versus physical occupancy and look at CapEx and all this stuff, then we realized that the facility is really only worth $1.4 million. And so we came back to the owner and we told the owner that we wanted to change our offer. I said, look, I know it's gonna piss you off, but like the only thing that, the only price that we could pay is like $1.4 million. I mean, it's just not like, I've talked to my investors, we've looked at like financing it, and 1.4 is kind of just where everybody wants to be. And that's where we want to be. And that's where kind of we feel comfortable. And he was, of course, pissed. And I would be pissed too, because like that's like $300,000 that's just gone. And so so I let him, like, I kind of just talked to him, and then I let him, think about it and stuff. And that was like, maybe that was last week sometime. Actually, he didn't talk to me for like a whole week. I thought like maybe a week or two. Yeah, I told him like, yeah. So right after we got back from the holidays, I told him, and he didn't talk to me. He was like pissed. And so then he just came back today, and he messaged me. He said, okay, if you can do 1.425, then you can take the facility. He said, I talked to my wife. He said, so let's hop on Zoom and let's like discuss this. But he's like, I want to just finalize it. So we went from 1.9 to 1.7 to 1.4 on this facility. And the facility is actually a great facility. It's worth like 3.3 to $3.4 million. But it's the physical occupancy versus the economic occupancy is like not good, honestly. And then there's like a warehouse on the facility, on the property. There's like a warehouse that he kind of rents out, like a whole bunch of different like 6 different like spaces. And he's not making what he should be making. And also the people that are there are like just like ruining that whole place and stuff. So it's going to take, that building itself is going to take like a lot of work. So it's a storage facility plus like a warehouse. And I really want to make that warehouse into climate control. And but I didn't put that in like the numbers or anything, because like when I look at numbers, I typically look at numbers like what is it right now? What could it be doing right now? Not like, what if I added more spaces? Now, some people, they love developing. I mean, some people, they look at property and they say, look, I could definitely add, more space. I want more space. And actually, I have a whole handful of students that I'm doing like turnkey acquisitions for. And they're adamant, like, I want like a facility plus land. And, because they want to add on and stuff, but we just really aren't like those type of people. We like to like buy, fix up, stabilize, and then just sell. In fact, the first 4 facilities that we bought, we're going to be selling in January. We're going to list those out. And we're going to list those. And I'm looking forward to selling those because, not only am I going to make some money on them, but also I get to go through that process, because I've never sold a storage facility before, so all of the facilities we've had, we've been holding on to them for the last couple of years. So I'm kind of excited to go through that process. And like, who knows where the market's going to be. And I talked about this last time. Where's the market going to be? And like when we list the property in January, it's going to take us like 3 to 6 months to sell the things. I will be listing my properties at 20% what everybody else, 20% lower what everybody else is listing them at. So people might think, oh wow, that's a lot of money, 20% lower. But the truth is that when you get into this business and you really figure this business out, I mean, to buy a storage facility is like not a big deal. To buy a storage facility and hold on to it for a couple of years and then sell it and then just go buy another storage facility, for me, that's my protocol. That's how I work. That's how me and Pete work. And that's just kind of our system. So for me to, I don't have to make top dollar on every single one of my facilities. I'm not going to hold on to my facilities until like I get the highest point or whatever, because I know that I could just like take that money. In fact, what's going to happen is that like I have like $1 million in those 4 properties from private lenders, and we'll sell it for about $3 million. And that $1 million from those private lenders, essentially, they don't want that money back. They don't want that money back. So I'll be able to roll that money right into to some deals. And on top of that, I'll be able to take my money that I have and put those into other deals. So for me to sit there and really push the numbers on like 3.3, 3.5 or whatever, like, because it could get that much, then I just rather just sell those suckers and just like roll that money into more stuff and just keep moving on is what that's kind of my personality. But I have a lot of students, and there's nothing wrong with this as well too. Like they have a number in their head, and this is exactly how sellers are too, right? They've got this number in their head and they're going to hold on to that number, especially if you only have one storage facility, right? Especially if you just have that one storage facility. You're like, I've got to make as much money as I possibly can on this property. So, just keep that in mind, of course, from the seller's point of view. Sometimes when they only have one property, that's their retirement. That's like, that's their life. That's their livelihood, so they want to like penny pinch and get as much as they can. But the truth is you really should be in that. You should get yourself into the position where it's like, have a couple of these things or more than a couple. And then that way you can just, rinse and repeat. You can just sell and just keep moving on. All right. So that's kind of where I'm at. We're about to go through the liquidation process. And I talked about this last week. We're sitting with our CPAs. We had meetings with CPAs last week. And I'm trying to figure out like taxes and selling properties and what's going to happen and like tax sheltering and this kind of stuff is where we're at. So I'm really excited about 2023. It's going to be good. I'm going to be prepared for 2023. Now, for everybody that's new in this industry, you guys all want to get in. Essentially, last time, so I got into the real estate industry in 2010, like 2011, which was like the perfect time to get in because I was coming in an upswing, right? It was from the downswing to the upswing. And this time is when I was doing rehabs. And it was a great time to do rehabs because everything was super cheap and you could buy, discounted prices and stuff like that. But, and so I was in this upswing. So actually the truth is I've really honestly never been through a downswing. I got in 2010, 2011. And it's just been an upswing because this is like one of the longest markets, markets that it's been going upwards, right? So we're finally about, supposedly we're going down now. So I'm excited to go through a downswing. And the good thing is that I've been through this cycle. I've been through the half of a cycle to where I know, and I was educated to like prepare for the down cycle. You see what I'm saying? So I'm prepared and ready. So just for all the newbies out there, you may be started in and maybe just getting started, and maybe you're not in the same position as I'm in. But the truth is that you're in a cycle. Learn that cycle and learn how to navigate that cycle. Because I've learned over the past 10 years or 12 years that I've been doing this, is that real estate is just nothing but a cycle. And every couple of years it shifts into something else. And because it was like rehabbing, and then all of a sudden it was like multifamily was awesome. And then it was like commercial real estate started building up, and then industrial was now everybody's industrial and storage. And now we're coming into the downturn. Right. And so what's going to be important? Buy and holds, right? And creative deal structuring, owner financing, because the reason why is because banks are so conservative, right? Banks are so conservative right now, ridiculous. Like it's going to be like, did the numbers come out or is that tomorrow? I can't remember. I haven't looked at the news all day because I've been busy, but if it came out yesterday, or when's the meeting, today or tomorrow? But, so, if it goes up half a point or, 75 basis points or whatever, I mean, it's going to be at 8%. I'm telling my students right now to run their numbers at like 8 to 8.5%. So if you're going to close on a property within the next 90 to 120 days, you're probably going to be in the 8% mark, right? Banks are being super conservative, all this kind of stuff. So that's it's just a cycle. It's going to last for a couple of years, and then you're going to go into something else, right? Is what it is. So just kind of like, be strong, be smart, educate yourself, surround yourself with people that you want to become, keep moving forward, keep taking action, talk to as many owners as you possibly can, make as many offers as you possibly can. And, and then you'll just educate yourself along the way, and you'll find a couple of good deals, right? And this, I mean, I've only been doing this in storage. I've only been doing this now since 2017. I started looking in 2016 and bought our first facility in 2017. And, and I'm already like, 5 years in, and we're already like this. And the reason why is because I keep moving forward. I have momentum. I take action. And even when I screw up, believe me, I screw up. I screw up. I mean, I had a rehab. That was a bad rehab. I lost a lot of money on that rehab. That kind of set me back for a couple of years, but I just kept pushing forward and moving forward. And I had a goal of 1 storage facility a year. And that's why I tell my students, 1 facility a year is a very good goal to have. Now, obviously, as you keep getting into this, right, and after the first and second and third years of you doing this, all of a sudden it just gets easier and easier, but 1 facility a year, that's a great goal. If you guys have any goals about real estate investing for 2023, or if you have any goals for storage investing, I would love for you to put those into the chat so I could read those. And really just put them out into the world, so the world like hears them and manifests them for you. It's important to be, to tell people about what your goals are, because then really what it does is kind of holds you accountable. And so that's why I'm really an open book. Honestly, I'm telling you guys what I'm doing. Well, that means I have to do it if I'm telling you what I'm doing, right? Because I'm out in the world. So I'd love to hear what your goals are for this next year coming up. Everybody should be planning them. I start planning my 2023 in October. And so that's kind of where I'm at, right? Just to give everybody purchase good. And Rachel says she wants to purchase her first facility in 2023. Perfect. See, that's a very good goal. Just keep your eye on that goal. Keep coming to the Monday night sessions, and I'll be there to at least kind of educate you. I'm here every Monday night, except for I will not be here on the Monday after Christmas and the Monday after New Year's. I'm going to take 2 weeks off, and because I'm traveling and with family and all this kind of stuff or whatever. So just so you know, so next Monday I'll be here, which is the 19th. And then after that, I'm going to take the 26th and the 2nd off. Now, just a quick reminder. I like Ido. Ido said, I want to purchase my first facility for summer 23. Good. I want, or I will. I like that. Say I will. That's a good one. So, and the doors to Storage Nerds, the coaching program, and the mastermind open up in January 8th. So make sure that you get on the wait list at storagenerds.com. And so that way, if you are interested in getting coaching, then you can get notified to talk to me about it. I only take about 20 students or so. So about 20 students is kind of where I'm at. So just FYI, so you want to get on the wait list and discuss it with me, and then see if it's a good fit for you. Okay. Now let's move on to Google Maps. Let me see. And then just so you know, like if Lillian comes in and like asks questions, just FYI, I have to help her. She's doing chess right now. So every Monday she does chess. She has been doing chess since she was 4 years old. She's now 6. She loves chess. So that's kind of what I can hear her like kind of like screaming in the background and stuff at her. She does like a virtual chess school. Okay, who else? Let's see. Rachel says we're scheduled to meet. Good. I'd like to buy my first storage facility. I want to buy my first storage facility next year. That's it. Y'all are the only like people that have goals. Nobody else has a goal for next year. Okay, that's good to know. So let's see. Let's try to have a goal for next year. I think one storage facility is a good goal if that's what you're if you're interested in storage. Now, good. Other people are doing it. Thank you, Ariel. And says, okay, so Cynthia says she's got to have her own storage facility, and Jim is going to buy one in New Hampshire and maybe another one in North Carolina. Good. I love it. So yeah, let me share my screen, and I just want to get into let me just say the difference between primary, secondary, and tertiary markets. Okay. And so primary market is like just, is like metro cities. All right. So Atlanta, Nashville, San Diego, Los Angeles, Phoenix, obviously these are all primary markets. Okay. And in the industry, you have like in the commercial industry, you have like primary, secondary, and tertiary. So primary is really the city, right? The big cities. But actually, even smaller cities, So for instance, I live in Tallahassee, which has only 200,000 people in it, but it does have a primary market. And the primary market is, and when you go to like a primary market and you search storage, you will see like Cube Smarts and Extra Spaces and Life Storage and public storage and whatever it is. You'll see these like funds or these like kind of huge big box companies. So you know that you're in a primary market if you see those, right? Now the question is, that's the easy one, the primary market. We know like all these big cities are primary market. Now the question is like, what are secondary markets and what are tertiary markets? So let's get into that, since we kind of know what a primary market is. And let me share my screen, and I want to just talk about this. And then if you have any questions about any areas that you're looking at, then we could always try to figure that, put it into the chat as well. So everybody should be able to see my my Google Maps. All right. And so, okay, let me see here. So this is, where am I? Okay, so I said I'm in Tallahassee. Okay. And so you can see in Tallahassee, this is, and population is very important. I said this is 200,000 people that live in Tallahassee. But you want to get into your Google Maps and you just want to search the word storage. Wherever you're at, just search the word storage, okay? And so you can see here, right? You can see, and you can see the all of the big come on, let's X out of this for a second. Okay, so all the big box companies. Okay, so you could see Cube Smarts, you could see Storage Quest, Storage King, Otter, Storage, Prime Storage, Extra Space. There's an Extra Space Storage. There's a couple of Cube Smarts. There's Prime Storage. These are all kind of like bigger ones. Storage King. And when you look at these facilities, right, you can kind of tell me they're all indoor, huge outdoor kind of spaces. Cube Smarts, so we all know these are going to be like primary market. Okay. One thing that I want you to notice when you start looking in your city is, and obviously these facilities here are like, going to be $3, $4, $5, $10 million. These facilities are huge, big facilities. Okay. Now this one right here, this Cube Smart, because I drive by this Cube Smart every day to drop Lillian off at school. And this one here, if you click on it, let's see. It's a Cube Smart. And let me see if it has any pictures, like actual pictures. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, it looks really nice. I don't think it looks this nice, honestly. But yeah, so you could see what it looks like. It's outdoor storage and indoor storage. On the outside, it looks really kind of beat up, honestly. They're making these pictures look really good. They must have like professional photographer come in and take a look at it. But I think what happened on this facility is that Cube Smart is managing this facility. So, right, so there's different types of facilities as well, too. There's like Cube Smart or Extra Space or Public Storage will come in and build a facility. right? And then also they manage them as well too, especially CubeSmart. They do a lot of managing of other people's facilities. So I'm guessing for like this CubeSmart, because also another thing is like where this location is. This is not like in Tallahassee. So the way Tallahassee is like this big circle right here. This is like Tallahassee, like, and this right here, I would consider this to be like, I would consider this to be country, actually. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but this CubeSmart is there. And so that just makes me believe that CubeSmart is managing this facility as well, right? So you can always just kind of notice that. Here's a Bradford mini storage. What's this, like way out here? Yeah, so this is this one. And this is a nice big facility, it looks like. Lots of, yeah, looks a little bit older, but not too bad. And this one is Morningstar. No pictures. Okay. And so, you know, really kind of familiarize yourself with like what a primary market looks like. This is what a primary market looks like. And so now secondary market, when I pull out like into the panhandle of, you know, the panhandle, obviously this area is going to be all tertiary. So where is the secondary markets? Okay. And I would consider this to be like a primary market, and maybe CubeSmart to be a secondary market, kind of outside, but maybe a primary market. And then anything outside of this area is really, honestly, I would consider it to be like tertiary market. Okay, so this actually does not have a secondary market. I don't think Tallahassee has a secondary market. Now, Valdosta, we own a facility in Valdosta, and Valdosta has 75,000 people. And Valdosta is definitely a secondary market. It's a standalone city, not connected to any other cities, that you know, is like a good size. I mean, there's 75,000 people here. So in your state, maybe try to think of you know, some areas that, you know, some cities that might have this. So now in a secondary market, you are going to notice that the players are different. The players are different. So for instance, 10 Federal Storage is a fund that buys facilities not in primary markets, but in secondary markets. They buy facilities in smaller markets, and then they like fix them up and make them look really nice, and then they manage them. Okay. And then so, you know, so I just noticed that in a secondary market, the players are going to be different than in a primary market. Okay, so primary market's going to be like hedge funds and big box, huge companies and stuff. And secondary market is going to be like medium. Now let's click on this. Let's click on this one right here. Yeah, and their colors are always red and tan, I guess is what it is. So this is theirs. Let's see if we can look at this. Yeah, so this is, yeah, this is their color. They come in, they paint their facilities the same color every single time. And then they also do like a whole bunch of, I guess, technology. It's pretty cool that you can just kind of like walk through the storage facility, huh? I'm like, oh, this is what it looks like. Okay, yeah. So I'm trying to see if we can get them up to the, if there's like off. Yeah, here's the office in the front. Let me see. Does it let us go out or no? Yeah, here's the office in the front. There's always an office. It's got a nice gate. They paint it red and white. And then inside you can go in and they have like a kiosk. And then you can like rent your space there. So there's no person that mans this. Whereas like in a primary market, a lot of the times you'll have like somebody there manning the facility. Once you get into like secondary markets, a lot of the times it's really remotely, like, you know, remote managed. Okay. And you know, and then you have a lot of, in secondary markets, you have a lot of like storage facilities that are bigger, but they're not like, they're owned by like one person or two people. Now, obviously 10 Federal is here twice, but then you have like let's see, A&M, self-storage. What does this one look like? It's looking pretty rough there. This is what a unit looks like. So this is it. Yeah. So this is the storage facility. So you can see it's kind of a bigger one because it's got this office and it's got like, you know, like the office, and then like, you know, the back, in the back it's got it. So it's like commercial. Maybe this is commercial. Oh no, this is what it looks like. Yeah. So it's kind of a bigger facility, but it's probably owned by one person, or maybe, you know, like he owns a couple of them and that's it. Okay, so this is what like a typical like secondary market would be. Now, also in these types of cities, these are good to look for facilities that are like, they have not been bought yet by like the bigger players. Now, I don't know, let's look at Bill's self-storage here. Look, here's Bill's self-storage, and this one's looking pretty good here, right? So he's got a little chart here with his prices and stuff. I don't think you don't want to ever put your prices on a sign, okay? Because your prices should be dynamic. Your prices are up and down with the market. All right. So this, you know, this guy. So I'd be talking to Bill and you know, seeing if he, you know, wants to sell. Looks like it's a little bit like, maybe it's a little bit newer. It's kind of down south, so maybe he added this. Look, oh, you can pay here with your phone. Use auto dial phone to call. It's good to like look at the pictures so you can see, man, you could just call them and they could just pay for you right here. Or you can put it right in, you can put the money right into your slot. So this kind of like, yeah, this is definitely an older facility if he's running it like that. And let me see. So this is it. That's it. And that's all the pictures. So this is a very good one, I think, to try to call and talk to owner and see if, you know, if he wants to sell. And these, I'm telling you, this type of a secondary market is a great area to be looking in, especially right now. And just talking to owners and seeing if they want to sell. Now, you know, a lot of them are going to say no, they don't want to sell, but you know, at least you can just introduce yourself. So think about in your area some secondary markets. All right. Now, population is super important, okay, in storage. And so you want to search population by state, okay? And then you want to, sorry, not population by state, population by city in, let's say, Georgia, okay? And then you're going to go to the list, and then you're going to, you know, really start looking at like the population and seeing like what it is. Let me see, where's Valdosta? Here's Valdosta. Valdosta has 55,000 people in it. You see, but it's like interesting to look at the population, because look, Atlanta has 514,000, Columbus is 210, Augusta 200. So these are probably going to be like primary markets. I say a primary market is 100,000 or more, but you know, yeah, I would say primary markets like 100,000 or more. All right, so Sandy Springs has 110, Athens 130, you know, Roswell. These are all kind of like, now these are secondary markets. But I mean, honestly, the truth is, if you look at Atlanta and you know, you look at Sandy Springs, this is really just metro Atlanta. I mean, honestly, metro Atlanta is just massive. It's just two things. So I would say Alpharetta, you know, and Ackworth and Marietta. So these are not inside the city of Atlanta, but they're suburbs of Atlanta. So they're really in the Atlanta market. And honestly, this whole area, I would say from like Cartersville to Cumming, Flowery Branch, and then, you know, all the way down here is kind of like primary market, right? Primary market. So I would not, like, unless you can afford millions and millions of dollars, I would not be looking at the suburbs of the city that you live in, or this, you know, actually the city. So if you're living in any city, it doesn't matter, you know, Knoxville or Greensboro or whatever it is, like in the suburbs as well, like outside of like, so for instance, Charlotte here, you know, like I've been all up in this area driving for storage, and you know, Gastonia I would consider a primary market. And you know, it's kind of further away, but I've driven all this area right in here is all primary market. And even though it's not in the main metro city area, it's primary market. Okay, so secondary market to me is a standalone city. a standalone city of 100,000 people or less. Okay, so for instance, when we get into like Augusta is 200,000 people, and then Macon, we just bought a facility in Macon, and so that one is like 100. That's like, I guess that'd be considered like a primary to secondary market. And also another thing that I would like for you guys to consider is just what I call like, yeah, so secondary market and then maybe sub-secondary markets, right? So this is like, if you were in this metro area here, where on the outskirts of this area is like this city moving to that you could possibly look at to purchase in, right? So I don't know the direction of where Charlotte's moving to, but I've driven from Charlotte to Columbia, and I really honestly, I feel like this area in between is like a great area to invest in. And it's expensive all the way. I mean, it gets really expensive. And then we looked at storage facilities all in this area, you know, but I feel like this would be a sub-secondary market because it's in between Columbia and Charlotte, right? So even though it's kind of tertiary and you're going through the country, you know, I feel like, I feel like it's kind of like a little bit more expensive in this area. Okay, so these are, and Columbia as well too is, I mean, it would be considered, I don't know what the population of Columbia is. Let's look at that. Population of Columbia, South Carolina. That's 137,000 people. All right, so I would consider that to be like a primary market. I'm sure it is. Let's look at storage, Columbia, South Carolina. Okay. So yeah, you can see extra space, live storage is all primary market is where this is. It's all primary market. Let's search this area again, see what else comes up. Yeah, so all primary market. Now, I don't know which way Columbia is moving, but I'm guessing Blythewood, it would be considered like a secondary market, but like it's, a secondary market. That might be, let's see, let's zoom in a little bit. And actually Google Maps is like, Google Maps or Google Earth is like the best. See, this public storage is all the way up here. So obviously it's moving up. I feel like it's going to be moving up this way. Like, I feel like if you want to invest in some land, I feel like in between Charlotte and Columbia is a great place to invest in some land and to build storage. And let's see what else. And then Columbia to Augusta. You see, like, this is the same kind of concept, right? This is going to be like a secondary to sub-secondary market. I'm calling them sub-secondaries. It's like not a secondary market, but it will eventually become a secondary market. I feel like this area is going to be growing. A lot of people are going to be, a lot of stuff is going to be built in between these two towns, because Augusta, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Augusta is on the top 10 cities to buy real estate in right now, according to realtor.com or something. I just read that. I don't know if anybody else read that. And so I thought that was very interesting. This is a very, very fast growing area, and Columbia is a great area to invest in, so in between here, I think would be a good area to be investing if you have a little bit more money. Okay. All right. So just think about that. You could see, Charleston obviously is a huge metro area, and then outside here would be like your secondary market. And so now tertiary market is like, if you don't have a lot of money and you want to buy a storage facility, it's the country. That's what tertiary market is, and that's where you should be looking at. And so what I would do is just try to pick the area that you want to be in. So let's just say that we are in the Augusta area. All right, and I think Augusta is kind of moving up into this area as well too. Yeah, Evans, I think, is like a super popular area. I think this is like the nicer area. But let's see. Let's look at Aiken, and let's look at like this. This would be a very good corridor. Let's see, what's the population of Aiken? I like to look at populations. Aiken is 30,000 people. See, that's a good size city to be looking in. So remember I said, primary market is 100,000 or more. And then secondary market is like 25,000 to 100,000, and tertiary market is 25,000 or less. All right. And then you have the sub-tertiary market. I would say sub-tertiary market is like 5,000 or less. And the sub secondary market would be like maybe 25,000 to 60,000 or 75,000 or something like that. All right. And so you can kind of just pick, you can try to figure out what your market is. I started out with like sub tertiary market. And then I went to tertiary market. And then I moved up to sub-secondary market. And then I moved to secondary market. And now we just bought something in Macon, which is 160,000 people, which would be considered really a primary market, but really a sub-primary market. I would call Macon a sub-primary market. All right. So just think about that. And actually, think about what level you're at, because you want to really focus. Like if you only have so much money, then you can only afford so much, so much storage facilities, right? So much storage. So are you a sub tertiary market, would be maybe like a population of 5,000 or less? Are you a tertiary market, would be like 5,000 to 25,000? Are you a sub-secondary market, which is like 25,000 to maybe 50,000? I'd say 25,000 to 50,000 is a good number. And then are you secondary market, which is like 50,000 to 100,000? And then are you sub-primary market, which would be like 100 to like maybe 200,000? Or are you like a primary market where you're like 200,000 or more? Like, I just want to be right in the middle. Right. And so put it into the chat, which one you think you are. I'd love to hear where you are now in terms of pricing. Right. So, obviously, if you can't come up with any money, you're like, I ain't got no money, but I want to get into storage, then you should be wholesaling self-storage. Right. I always say this: wholesale self-storage. There's not enough wholesalers out there that know how to truly wholesale. So if you don't know how to wholesale, then you should definitely buy my course, because I teach this. But essentially, wholesaling is really good for tertiary market. So your buyer is going to be a tertiary market buyer, sub-tertiary and tertiary markets. And that is where you're going to find a property that's like a couple $100,000 that you can wholesale and make 25 to 50 grand on. All right, that's a good starting point. Sub-tertiary and tertiary markets are like a couple $100,000. All right, 500,000 or less, right? Because you can find like so if you can only come up with like 50 grand, or if you can only come up with 50 or 100 grand, then you would be like 50 grand is like a sub-tertiary, and 100 grand could be a tertiary to maybe a sub-secondary, right? And then you have and then you're like, I can come up with 100 grand, and my partner can come up with 100 grand. So now you have 200 grand, right? And so now you have $1 million property. $1 million can get you a good sub-secondary to a secondary market, something like this. All right. Now, every once in a while, you'll find like a bad deal in like a good city. Right? A bad storage facility, like a totally mismanaged storage facility in a bad city. Mismanaged facilities are like, they're the ones that are like the diamonds in the rough, right? So of course you can always find these in all the different markets, right? So for instance, like I bought the ugliest storage facility in Macon, right? And it's a population of 150,000 people, and I got the ugliest storage facility in Macon. Okay, so you can always do this. There's always exceptions to the rule. Okay. But typically you're going to find, a couple $100,000 is going to get you like a sub-tertiary to a tertiary market. Okay. So if you're trying to get your first facility and you're looking in, Augusta for a facility that's like 300 grand, well, that ain't going to work. That's gone are those days. That's like the days when I first started, like when nobody wanted to get in storage, like that. Those are days. Okay. You should be looking in this is a great, you see how it's like Aiken, Williston, Blackfield, Denmark, Bamberg, Branchville. This would be a great corridor right here of like looking for storage, right? Like this would be a great corridor to be talking to every storage facility owner in this area. This would be a great area. Okay. And, so think about like good areas that you could be looking at. And, you definitely don't want to be around the highway, but what about, if you go up from Florence to Darlington and Hartsville? Now, obviously, like you could get into like Bethune, and let's see, what's Bethune? Bethune is Bethune? Bethuna? 315 people, right? So it's like that to be like a very small town. Even the smallest towns have storage. All right. So I bought one of my very first facilities that I bought. It was in a town of 315 people. The 10-mile radius was 6,000 people, and I bought it for $100,000. Okay. And it's 60 units and it's completely full, and I haven't been there in years. And there's one guy that just kind of mows the place and then like does overlocks. He'll like clean out and do overlocks. And I think we pay him like $300 a month. But that thing is worth like at least $250,000 to $300,000, and we haven't done anything to it in like years. And honestly, so there's nothing wrong with starting out in a sub-tertiary market. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll be able to take that $100,000 to $150,000 and then just 1031 exchange that into like another deal. And then that $100,000 I borrowed from the investor, he will let me just roll that into whatever deal that I buy. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that at all. Now, so think about like the areas that you want to be in. It doesn't really matter what area, and you just look. You're looking for corridors, and you're looking for, depending on how much you want to spend, but those corridors where it kind of comes out, and then sometimes it's like super tertiary, right? Like Missouri is kind of a tertiary, like except for around like the touristy areas and stuff. And for instance, like actually Arkansas is like obviously like very tertiary. There's a lot of country in Arkansas, but there's a lot of really good area. I mean, this whole area from Little Rock all the way up to, this area, I think this is a very good area to invest in. And I would honestly consider most of this to be secondary market, from Little Rock all the way up to Fayetteville. But then you have a lot of little tiny towns in here that, because we're fine. I mean, believe me, because I have a virtual assistant calling storage facility owners in these little tiny towns. And they're like, even in these little tiny towns, I mean, facilities are anywhere from, $250,000 to $1 million. I just talked to one lady, and I think it was a town of like 30,000 people. And when she wanted like $1.4 million. Okay. So, if you don't have a lot of money, you should be looking in sub-tertiary, tertiary, sub-secondary markets. If that makes sense to you. So now there's like, I've just created these new levels of markets. And I don't know if I created them, but that's my idea. I came up with this, right? Sub-tertiary is 5,000 or less. Tertiary is like 5,000 to 25,000. And depending on your state is what is going to determine the value of that, like that market, of that facility. So depending on the market. So if you're living obviously in like Massachusetts, right, where it's like one of the most expensive places to live, obviously a sub-tertiary and a tertiary market is going to cost way more than if you're like in Arkansas. Okay. And and then you have the sub-primary and the sub-secondary and the secondary markets. And then you have like the sub-primary and the primary. So maybe like, for instance, if you're in Nashville, and all the suburbs of Nashville would be like sub-primary, right? Or maybe there's a town in Tennessee that has like, it's a standalone town that has 150,000 people in it. And that could be like a sub-primary town. So I wouldn't really actually call that a secondary town. I would call that like, because they'll have in a town of 150,000 people to 200,000 people, you will have, just like you saw in Tallahassee, you'll have extra spaces in cube smarts. And really, as an investor, as a self-storage investor, you're thinking in terms of the way that these like big box office, I mean, they're doing what I'm telling you is what they are doing internally. They have like a whole team that does this, except for they focus on like primary and like maybe sub-primary markets is what they focus on. And where are the little people? And we're focusing on like sub-tertiary, tertiary, and sub-secondary and secondary, right? And right now there's that middle ground, right? So some of these like bigger players, like 10 Federal Storage, love, like they're big in Atlanta. Like a couple of years ago when I first got started, they were buying in Atlanta. And then they got pushed out of Atlanta because Atlanta got too expensive. So then they moved to Valdosta, right? And so you have this kind of movement. Obviously, the hedge funds can always go wherever they want to go, right? But these secondary players and then the tertiary players, and a lot of tertiary players, I mean, are like me. I mean, I own a lot of facilities in like tertiary, sub-secondary and tertiary markets. And but there's a lot of movement right now. There's a lot of movement from like up to down because prices are so expensive. But then there's movement like for people like me where I'm like, yeah, I can move on to the next level. Let me go buy something bigger, And so there's all this movement, and people are buying and selling storage facilities. I mean, there's so many storage facilities for sale. I just think it's like 700 storage facilities on Crexy right now. I've never seen that much. It's crazy. Like when I first got started, there was like 200. And so, there's just so much movement right now that there's a lot of opportunity, but you really have to understand the market. You really have to understand the market. Okay. So that is today's lesson. Now, next week's lesson, Monday, we're going to take those those markets that I just created, the 6 of them, and we're going to go through the cap rates. That's what we're going to do. So now you know all the different levels of all the different markets out there and how to find them. Your homework is to go and try to figure out which markets you're interested in. I would love to know. I saw some tertiary, I saw maybe wholesaling. Try to figure out what markets you're interested in. And then next Monday, we'll talk about like cap rates. What is the market cap rate for each one of those levels? Now, Ariel, if you could please remind me, that's what my topic is for next week, because I might forget. All right. So I am going to hop off now and go to my fund. It's stacyrossetti.com/fund. So make sure that you come hang out with me if you want to be a passive investor and just put your money into the fund. Okay. I appreciate Erin says, what did you say for the topic? The topic is what's the cap rate of each of the 6 markets that I just went over. Okay, so we'll come up with a title for that, but that's what it's going to be. All right, I appreciate you guys hanging on to the end, and I will see you guys at the next session. Take care.